Hey everybody, this is Dark Guys, and we're back again with the tank game here. So I've got an empty level here, and what the plan is for this session to work on a little bit of level design again. This time, we're going to make a survival horde style level. Now I know the last level I didn't finish, and I was going to continue on it, but I'm going to wait for a little bit more before I work on that one again, because there's a few things I do want to work on, and I do need to finish and get running. And a horde level I think might be the best way to test this. So the first thing to do is I need to get saving and loading working. I'm not going to do this in this video because I got to finish reading this article and everything else. But part of that is in order to get something save and load, I need something to save, and I want to do it where I'm not wasting time making test levels that exist purely to test saving and loading. So instead we're going to build a horde level, which will probably more than likely end up in the final game, because I want to give people not just a campaign to play, I want a little bit of few creative modes to play, for example racing levels, survival levels, defensive levels, and what this will be a defensive level is what this will end up being. I'm not actually going to call it a horde because there's not a lot of point in calling a horde if you're not fighting a horde of something, and though I guess you could argue you're fighting a horde of robots. Anyways, we're going to need to create a level, and we're going to need to create some spawn points, and we're going to need to create some mechanics to guarantee the spawn points continue to run in a way that makes it feel like a horde survival without being really dumb. And then of course we're going to need, I don't know if we really need an objective to protect, so I guess defense might not be the best way. I guess just survival level would be kind of cool. So we'll build a really simple level. Anyways, I've cleared everything already, I've got rid of everything else, I've already saved the scene into another thing called Horde, and we'll go ahead and get to work. So let's get our tile palette out. I haven't had a chance to actually work on the tile palette more, but let's go ahead and use it. So we'll use our Sand Arena tile palette. And I really wonder if we could fix this hole where it snaps over to the side. I'm not going to worry about it though. So let's create some kind of center here, and apparently it flipped us to silly mode, even though I clicked there we go. So create some kind of center spawn point. This will be where we spawn, and of course if we have more than one player, we'll have them spawn as well in the center. Then we're going to need, I want to say, some kind of defendable terrain, something you could use for cover so you're not getting smacked and destroyed repeatedly. Then we're going to also need to consider spawn points. So start first by making, I want to say, some roads of some kind. And let's make sure we're actually doing a decent job to make sure that we're measuring this so it's not, we don't end up with an asymmetrical map, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I like my symmetry. At least in the context of map building, because if you play something else like MechWarrior, then it's a completely different question on whether or not like symmetry. So we'll say, yeah, that'll work. And you know what, I might just leave these in here because they actually don't look half bad. So get that going. And I'm probably going to cut this corner out, is what I'll probably end up actually doing. So get 1, 2, 3, 4. This is almost like building maps in Minecraft, except you don't get y-axis. Okay, and then how big did I end up making this road? So we'll use some dirt to measure the road. That looks really bad. Looks like we made it 9 wide. There we go. Last thing I want to do is make mistakes on the level design for some of these levels, because there's not an easy way to move things in here. So you would think with paint you could select something and then just cut and paste. I haven't figured out how to do that yet in here. So if we make like a major mistake where we're off by a single tile, then that means we end up having to redo like an entire area. And the way around this, which I'll probably end up doing later, so I'll probably end up redoing this level, is we wouldn't actually be using the tile system for this entire level. We would actually use a lot of pre-built objects. So our walls would be like pre-built objects and stuff. So right now we're just measuring those, so I guess we could come back in here and redo that. So it's, yeah, that might actually be a good idea. Make some pre-built objects, so make all your terrain destroyable. I still need to work on making the AIs actually smart enough to realize that they can blow things up. There's a lot of work that's going to be involved in just that step. So it's going to be, I don't even know if we'll get to the final version I'll even have that in there. Because it's not like a core feature I need to make sure that the AIs know how to blow up doors or open doors at all. Because that's something the player can do, and I can just explain it away that the robots don't care. Although I don't want to get in the habit of that. Because I'm gonna make the next game, I'll do the same thing because laziness. But at least with this, we can do a decent job. Man, that tile looks really bad. I'm definitely going to redo well, I plan to redo all these tiles, so I don't know why I'm saying I plan to redo something, because the plan is to redo almost every single one of these tiles. Just double measure these. But I mean, it looks really bad. It's mainly the contrast, because you get down in here, and this is... I've seen soil that looks like this before. It's just been on farms, and I'm questioning if it was actually soil. You get my drift. Okay, so we want to go ahead and actually fill this in. We don't want to fill in outside of it just in case we don't want players getting out there. We're going to need to do some kind of wall system here in a second, but that gives us at least a spawn area, and let's get rid of the dirt because I don't really like the way it looks. And we'll leave the orange part in here because then we'll probably come back in here and do some kind of wall. Make sure I actually check to see if that's still 5. Yeah, it's still 5. Okay. When you zoom out, it almost looked like 4 tiles down there. So we get our spawn area. Let's go ahead and center the player. Get our tool here. Cool thing is the camera will auto-follow the player, which is so nice. I don't have to worry about it. So that's what the white box is, by the way, is the camera. It's got a really cool script on it that just auto-follows. I definitely need to toy with it as well. So we're going to have points here where we don't want to limit the player just to inside this. Oh my god, that snapping is just annoying. I don't want to move the map over here to the corner, because I move the map over to the 0-0 corner, then I don't have to worry about snapping, but then we're in the way of the UI over here. Which is why I've got it in a different spot. I just have to get used to it. I wanted that tool, actually. Some kind of road going on here. Or Unity can just not do that. I feel like one of these days I'm going to end up making my own tile set system for this, because like Unity's tile system, it's cool, it's useful. It's definitely a great way to get somebody started making maps for their games. But it's got a lot to be left to desire. Like being able to copy and paste sections. Like for example, say I was building a whole bunch of houses and stuff, and I wanted to be the part of the tile map, that way I didn't have like extra overhead of objects sitting around. You can't exactly do that. At least I don't know a way to do it. Anyway, let's go ahead and fix that. Speaking of, I guess we could have put houses in here, but I kind of want to get like almost a Roman sand arena type thing going. I was kind of thinking, like Halo 3 has a map that's like a desert map. Let me go see if I can dig it up. Halo 3 sand map. Yes, it has like a desert map. This is kind of one of the things I was thinking of when I was thinking like, hey, let's build a arena. Is we can basically get something like this. So we could build a whole bunch of concrete buildings. It is a thing. Yeah, we'll go with that. My years of playing Halo are actually becoming useful. We'll go ahead and use this as concrete for the moment, and we'll just come back and redo it. And we need to fill in like the rest of our map, even if we don't plan to do anything with it. Let's go ahead and get like a cobblestone texture here. Come on, Unity, don't crash on me. I think I'm joking too, and I've had it crash like while sitting here trying to do the tile thing. Let's just go over here for a second. There we go. There we go. That'll give us at least some kind of contrast we can work on. And then what we'll do is any area we want the player to walk in, we'll come back in and redo it. So we're going to want like a collidable terrain object. We want to let the player drive up into it. Let's first start off real quick here, and I want to get rid of these corners like I said I was going to. Because we don't want to limit the player to 4 ways in and out of the center of the map, because that's a great way to get the player killed. You don't want to choke point the player. Unless you actually want to choke point the player, and that's a different story. For the most part, you want to make sure that he's got a very easy way to get in and out of areas. And you want to make sure that, at least I need to make sure that these areas are big enough to get in and out of. Because I think we're going to end up with tanks probably twice the size of this at some point, so that it barely will fit through there. What we could also do is actually intentionally make this so that only the small tanks can get through, and then that leaves the small tanks better ways in and out of areas. And then the bigger tanks, the things that are really monstrous, then are stuck using the main roads, which would be a great advantage or disadvantage system to having multiple different tanks, which is the plan we are planning on doing. Because I know we're going to have a KV2 style tank at some point in time because I like my derp guns. But we're also going to have like huge like TOG 2, and for those who, let me actually look at the TOG 2 real quick just so I can make a point here for those who've never played World of Tanks. So the TOG 2 is a massive tank. You can see like, oh, just pop up images here. So this is like huge. Like a Tiger would not even go back. It would go back to about like the midpoint here. So this thing is longer than a Tiger. The thing's massive. And you can look at the Panzer Girl thing right there. And yeah, to give you some perspective. I don't think these characters are to scale. There we go. Let's get a picture. So you can see how big that tank is. And we're definitely going to have tanks that are like the TOG 2. Probably even bigger. Here's another perspective to see how big it is. So I know for sure we're going to have tanks like this, but we may have another turret up here, or some kind of turret in the back, or some kind of system that will make more sense. Here's a perfect example of what the TOG 2 looks like. That thing's huge. It's massive. They were meant to be, I think, used as personnel carriers, and I don't think they got used for that because it's too hot. Okay, so let's go ahead and start generating some structures here. So I'm going to make sure there is like a spacing gap near the edge of the road, so if you like swerve, you don't hit the building. That looks like that is a 4x4. There we go. That could be a small building. We don't really even have to explain like what this map even is. We probably could. We'd probably come up with a lore laser for it. Only problem now, I gotta repeat this. I wonder. Let's see if we can figure out some way, because you can select stuff. I wonder if you can. What if there is a way? No, you can't paste. But can you make a brush? No, that's not an option either. I wonder if you do a selection and do something like come over with a paintbrush. No, you can't do that either. Yeah, man, there's definitely a lot of work that they need to do with their tools. Cause that, like, you almost need like a full paint system just to get good use out of this levels. Okay, we need to do another side here, and another side here. So I guess another thing, we're not going to do this on all 4 sides, we're just going to get like one side done and then test it, and that'll be good enough for this video. And then I'll finish a lot of this up later. So I guess that's that. Of course, this isn't actually collidable, because I don't want the whole thing to be collidable. What I'm thinking is I make something like this so you can drive into it. We'll say it's like a pillbox or something. I'm probably going to end up making this bigger because that's a little too small. Select my grid here. That's weird. I got this like green box. I'm gonna say that's a collision system. What's weird is I'm trying to click this and make sure that I'm getting colliders on my blocks. I'm not getting my colliders. There it goes. Just glitched out. Another reason why I'm not too thrilled with Unity sometimes. Is I was clicking that so I could see to make sure my collision system's working. Let's go ahead and... yeah, we're just going to want to turn this into like a solid wall. I'm going to bring it in a couple blocks. I don't want any walls that are like 1 block thin in the game right now because we have an issue where you can shoot through walls. So I'm just going to solve that by level design at the moment, and then come back and fix the problem, and then at least one thing with the level design, it will actually make the levels kind of look a little decent, because you have these like 2 block thick walls. And we can even like add to these by having like a little like thing that comes out here. Let's do it on both sides. Because we're gonna have artillery guns eventually too, and we'll say the artillery guns can park in these little crevices and be like wailing on people. Because I don't even know if we're gonna get multiplayer, how many people we're gonna limit to a match. Because I know co-op we're gonna probably do 4, but then there's no reason why we have to limit it to 4 for any other match type. Assuming I get the lobby system work. I got to prototype the lobby system. If I get that working, then we can do whatever. That's gonna be a really tight squeeze going through there. Okay. That looks good. So now we're going to want to get some kind of spawn point system going, and we want them to spawn from the edge of the map pretty much. I almost want to make like an actual spawn mechanic system for this, like something custom that's just for this level, but I want to recycle the objects and not be wasting time making new objects. Go ahead and get our spawn points out. You know, let's have some fun with the destroyable objects too. Let's say like those entryways are not actually usable until you break them. Okay, so we need like -45. And we're gonna need to move this. I'll just put it there, because this is like a test level. We're definitely going to have to polish it when we come back through. But this is just a really simple destroyable object we can have. And we can duplicate this. Well, actually, one we're going to need to make a crate empty, because we're going to want to organize our stuff. And we'll call this center. And then we'll drag our destroyable object on that. That way we don't have like a whole bunch of objects that we have to stare at non-stop. Right there. Duplicate, and then we're going to need to set this to 45. Like anybody's ever messed with a level editor probably could come into this game engine right now and actually just sit here and make levels. I've actually never had a lot of experience doing this. I thought about building levels with, shoot, I can't even remember the name of the system anymore. I think it's Gary's Mod? Somebody was trying to talk me into doing servers for that like one point in time. Kind of wish I did, because I would have a lot more experience building levels. Here we get some destroyable objects. These will prevent the AIs from pathing in here, so you can use it as a way to... You break it open, you have another way to get out of here, but once you break it open, that means the AIs have another way to get in the center of the area as well. But of course, you have nothing to protect anyway, so it's not a big deal. Okay, so let's get the spawn points up too. Save the scene real quick though. And we're just going to make an empty object and we're going to call it spawners, because we're going to have the spawners everywhere. And this is the trick with the spawners, is what I may end up having to do is I may have to write something custom anyways, because we don't want... We really don't want the same object spawning over and over again, because you see these guys are actually set up for a certain spawn object. And we're going to want to spawn, like, test mobs, for example. Which that's yeah, we'll just leave it to test mobs, because it'll work. And then we'll just set them up on the road here. And we'll have them only spawn from this side for the moment until I can get stuff toyed around with. And what I'll have to probably come in here and make a custom spawn object, because I'm going to need some way to randomize these. I'm going to need to work on the mutator system here later, which is going to make the mobs harder as we go. I'll go ahead and do that. And we'll just make like, I would say 9 of these would be a good start. We're not gonna have 9 spawn at the same time though, because that wouldn't be a survival thing. Actually, we're gonna have one short of 9. No, is that 9? That's 6 plus. That's 10. I think. I'm bad at counting today. I haven't had a lot of coffee this morning. So we got our spawn things here. So we're gonna need some kind of spawner script. So we want to create another empty. And this will be our spawn controller. I probably should copy my code from one of my other games, because I have stuff for this already. But we're just going to make stuff on the fly because it's not that hard. So let's go to our script folder, map. Let's make a new folder. Create folder. Spawning. Could have done my spawn point in there. And then we'll make another one crate, C# script, spawn handler. So we might recycle the spawn handler and make it an object pull later as well. So that way, once you kill something, it just goes right back to the spawn handler and gets respawned the next level. Which will save a little bit of CPU time. We're gonna need the update method. You don't need the start method. So we're gonna need spawn point. We need an array of these. This will be how we track our spawn points. And then we're going to go public and number to spawn equals 1. And we'll do public and increase per wave equals 1. So we'll just increase it by 1 per wave. And then we're going to go... We need some kind of way to trigger it. So we're going to need some kind of boolean. Public boolean should spawn. Which, by the way, for those who might actually watch this to figure out how to program in C, I'm using Java syntax more than I'm using, or Java methodology for programming than I am using C's programming. You can tell by the fact that I have a tendency to lowercase my method names where C# does uppercase, or uppercase for the first letter. So we get our should spawn. And how we're going to need to do this, we're going to need some kind of way, and we'll do this, I think, via fixed update. So void fixed update to track how many AIs we have left. So we're going to do like int currently spawned equals 0, and we're going to do for spawn point this needs to be in spawn points. Yeah, as I said, I'm more of a Java programmer, so you can see where I'm typing that, and I went to go do the Java methodology. I don't know if even that even works in C#. I've been doing this one because it's the one I know. Then we're going to need to make sure this is a null because your points can go null. Unity, once it deletes an object, so say something happens and one of these objects is deleted, it will actually set objects to null. It's not actually turning it to null, it just sets a reference to null. Or not reference, but like if you go to check if it's null, it'll say it's null even though it's actually not null. But you don't want to run stuff on it because it'll still throw a null point exception. I expect this symbol, spawn handler, line 22. I think it's from my previous thing. I think if we hit that, it'll reload and recompile. So we're going to want to count how many spawn objects we have. We can do this because I actually thought ahead, and I made sure we keep track of the list of objects. So we just need like a public int spawned mob count. And you can tell, once again, lowercase method. And we just want to do spawn objects dot. I actually don't know what the thing is. I'm going to say size real quick, but let's check this. C# list size. It's called count. That's the problem about me being a Java programmer and trying to program in C is that the variable is actually called count, like the number of elements in the list, where in Java it's called size. So do that. That'll give me the number of spawn mobs. And then we just want to check to see how many we got. So we go currently spawn plus equals point. Let me grab my method over there. A little too tired to actually memorize my methods. So that gave me my number of currently spawned mobs, and yeah, it'll work. And we want to go if. We really shouldn't be running this like every single fixed update, because this means we're running it basically every... I wouldn't say every frame is how this works, because this runs every single frame. This runs like every so many frames, depending on how fast your game is running. So you may get this run like 30 times a second, or you may get this run 60 times a second, or 20 times a second, so it's not really reliable. So what I think I need to do is I'm going to add an update checker. Update timer, and we're going to set this... Oh, we need two variables. Because we need like a private version of this. I'll just do this and just change it. So we'll call this time, update time, and we'll say check every 1 second, because that's a pretty reliable time. And we'll set this, of course, to 0. Actually, let's do this. Void start. No, actually, I want to do awake. The reason for using awake versus start is that awake is called when the object actually awakes, and you can have the object awake multiple times. Now we use start. The reason for that is just because I know that method works. I'm not sure I'm spelling the awake one right. So we want to do update timer equals update time, just so we initialize it really quick. That way we can then come down here and go if update timer is less than equal to 0, because we want to make sure we have that less than, because if you flow over, then you don't want it to break on you. So get that, and then we do else. One of the problems with programming a notepad is you don't get a lot of formatting help. So we do update timer minus equals time dot fixed time maybe. You know, let's actually just move this to the update method because actually no, we'll just do this. We'll call this like check spawns. That's what we'll call this, and we'll just really quickly put this up here. So time, and we'll do time dot delta time. Because if I use the fixed time, there's a different time method I've got to use, and I don't remember the name of it. So that'll do that, which should then decrement our timer. And when our timer gets decremented, then we just have to really quickly reset it. So it'll be update timer equals update time. So that'll make sure it resets again. And then we just currently check our spawn, and we go currently spawned is less than equal to 0. Once again, you do the less than equal to 0 thing just to ensure that you don't. Well, actually, in this case, we just do 0, 0 because you're always going to have. Nah, I'm going to do this just because of sanity reasons. And then we just want to basically set should spawn to be true. Let me zoom back in. By the way, if you want to know how to do that, notepad is control. You can zoom in and out. I probably should zoom in too because we're doing this on camera. So that shouldn't guarantee that we're going to continue to spawn objects. And then what we want to also do in here is we want to increase our spawn count. So increase our spawn. Let's see, spawn something. Here we go. Number to spawn plus equals increase per wave. And this would be a method in theory because what you would do is you wouldn't be increasing it by 1 every wave. You'd be like increasing it by 2, 5, 6, something like that. Some kind of number that exponentially grows to the point where you get to a level where you just aren't going to get through it. And we're going to want to make sure we track what wave we're on. Public int wave equals 0. We're going to do wave plus equals 1 because we're going to probably put this up on display so we know what wave we're on. So now we get this, and now we're going to go down here and we're going to go if should spawn. And you know, let's make us a method too. That way we're not cluttering. Okay, and then we want to loop over our spawn points. And here's the tricky part. We don't want to spawn all of our mobs at once. And the reason for this is we've only got 10 spawn points here. And if we spawn too many, we're going to have collisions. And I don't know if the game will handle the collisions. Theoretically, what it's supposed to do, if you have 2 colliders sitting over top of each other, Unity will slowly push them apart for you until you eventually get them more outside the collider. It works reasonably well, but we're also dealing with the fact that these AIs have pathfinders and stuff on them, so what works reasonably well may not actually work well. So we're going to need... We're going to need a counter. And we're going to make this a private counter. So private and mobs to spawn. And we're going to initialize this as well. Mobs to spawn equals number to spawn, because we need to make sure we have this initialized to some value. And we actually don't need to initialize that one either. So both get initialized on start. And then down here, we want to go mobs to spawn equals number to spawn. That way we reset that number. And then we want to come through here, and every time we spawn an object, and this will be... We're going to pretty much let the spawn point do all the spawning work, because the spawn point does all the spawning work already right here. So we don't actually want to call the spawn. We just want to set do spawn to true. So point.do spawn. Actually clean that up real quick. What if there's a method in here? There's actually not a method. So I'm just going to have to set that to true through the public method. It's probably not a good idea to do this. Set that to true. And then we want to do number to spawn minus equals 1. Or mobs to spawn minus equals 1. We don't want to do the other way around, because then we'll just infinitely spawn mobs. And then we're going to need a spawn delay object. And actually, you know what's really cool about this? We don't need the should spawn. We're just going to go that greater than 0. Get rid of that variable, so we don't need to do the should spawn. Or no, actually, we still want to do the should spawn, because then this allows us to turn it off, so we can have, like, if you pause it, we don't want mob spawning. So that'll just be an exterior variable that we won't actually do. And we get rid of this, because we don't need to reset this. So that should work, and then the last thing we need is we need another delay timer. I probably should make an object for this at this point, because I have so many delay timers in the current code. So this would be spawn time, or spawn delay is what we'll call this. And we'll wait a second. A second should be long enough for the mobs to get off of the pad and start moving. There's one more thing I feel like we need to actually do. Yeah, if we're going to do this down here as well. The reason why I want to do this is because if this code runs and say we haven't spawned anything yet, this will actually do an update check and it'll cause another wave to spawn if we don't actually guarantee it turns off. So we want to basically say we don't want this logic running. If should spawn, it should be this way. And let's go ahead and move this up a level. So go if should spawn. That way we aren't checking it multiple times, we're only checking it once. It's not really that big of a deal because I'm pretty sure that if check runs in like milliseconds. If actually less than that, probably nanoseconds. So we want to make sure that this code only runs if we have mobs to spawn, and this code runs if we don't have mobs to spawn. And then we want to do one more thing. We want to go if point dot should spawn, or no, it's do spawn for this one. If do spawn, then current spawn plus equals 1. The reason we're doing this is that if it hasn't spawned yet, so say it's getting ready to spawn and this ran at the same time that this had set up its check to start spawning, then what would happen is we didn't check this, it would go ahead and start the next wave even though that last wave was not actually finished. So this will guarantee that this doesn't actually end up triggering it. And we'll write some notes here. Prevents wave from skipping if spawner is not finished. And what we do here is count currently spawned mobs. If no mob spawn, start next wave. Always good to write notes, even if they seem pointless. So that should work. And one last check. You want to make sure that it's not set to actually spawn yet. That should work. This should actually start to trigger a whole bunch of spawn points. A lot of code just to run that, but it works. The cool thing about making this spawn handler is I'm going to actually need this for the actual level designs, because there's going to be defensive levels in the actual game itself. So line 40, we messed something up. Unexpected in... Oh, this needs to be for each. Yeah, I'm so used to Java where your for and your for each are literally the same verb. And then we can wait for this to compile. Cool. And then we can just go ahead and set up some wave 0 number to spawn. So let's go ahead and say we spawn 5 first wave. Should spawn. Spawn delay. That looks good. Now we just need to set our spawn points. And I need to lock this so that way I can drag and drop without it messing up. So that gets all that there. Let's go ahead and save. And what we would do is this spawn handler would theoretically actually control all spawning for the entire map. So you would actually have, like, tons of these. And what I also kind of need to do is I need to make a version of the spawner that then you can group spawn points together. So say you want to have like 5 guys spawn always at the same time from a single spawn point. Say you had like a mini boss and like his 4 cronies, you might want to actually do a little different thing. But that'll work here. And then the next thing we want to do before we go ahead and start and test this is that we want to actually put some UI stuff here. Let's go ahead and scroll the UI. I'm hesitant to really edit the UI because this is actually a saved object. But we'll go ahead and add... I'm going to add a little text panel. And we'll go wave, and we'll say wave 0. And we'll just stick this right at the top of the screen. Just check the game screen. Yeah, right there it is. We're not going to do anything fancy for this. We're just going to write a really simple script for this. Go back up, UI. We're going to do create C# script, wave, wave text is what we'll call it. Open this up, and this is really simple. Is we just need to give our spawn handler handler, and then we need our text object. So let me open up help display real quick, just so I can make sure I grab the right data type. So text, and let me just check how it's updated. So just text.text, okay. Text.text equals wave. And we can make this a string variable up here, but I don't really care. It's not something we need to worry about, because that's all we want right there. And this will update every single tick and make sure that our display is updated. And what we could actually do with this as well is we can make a second text. Let's go ahead and do this as well. We're going to need to rename this. This would be wave text, and this would be mob text. Text equals mobs. And we'll do handler. And do we have an actual exposed variable I can touch for this? We do not, so we're going to actually have to make this exposed. We might as well expose them both, that way we can actually see what they're doing. And we want mobs to spawn to tell us how many we have left to spawn. Mobs spawns are spawning, and we'll just do like that. We don't actually have a variable to keep track of our actual number of spawn objects, and I really don't want to be running a method like this, but let's go ahead and make one. So public int currently spawned, and let's try to keep with C recommendations, and we'll just take this whole method, put it down here. I need to grab this part here. I'm going to leave it up there though because I'm going to need to like actually do this, so that way that method actually runs. Then our formatting got all screwed up by this. One of these days I'm actually going to go back to using a actual, like, I don't know, IDE for this stuff, but today is not that day. Man, when the music actually kills over, it gets really quiet. That's one of the things we're eventually going to need to work on for this game as well, is that you're going to have to get music in here, but it's going to probably happen in a month, maybe. I have no clue what we're going to do for that, because I want to have retro music for the game, because this is meant to be more of an arcade game, but I don't want to go overboard either, because, well, I don't really know a huge amount about music to start with. So what I like in music is not what somebody else likes. So this should get our currently spawned, and then we just need another text, and this will be... we're going to call this spawning, spawned. Stuff is like really easy to work on. It's pretty much the same as if you're working on, like, say, Swing GUI in Java. The only problem with this running every single tick is this is actually going to be... Well, it actually won't be that resource intensive, it's just I don't like doing stuff that can be considered heavy, because you can imagine, what if you had like 200 spawn points in your level? Then you have to loop over 200 spawn points, and it's got to turn data. And I guess it's not as bad as I think it is. It's just I usually try to avoid stuff like this if I can. Spawn text, spawning, wave. It looks all good, so now we're going to need to throw a couple more data objects on our thing. So this would be, and we're going to know what to name these to. So this would be wave, text. And then we duplicate. And then duplicate again. Okay. Let's make an empty game object here. Create empty. Move up here. Select 3. Put them up here. I'd actually make like a panel for this, is what I should be making, but I don't really care. This is really just meant to be test script stuff. Add component, and we want to put like wave text on here. Could not find text namespace. We forgot to import something. I forgot to return. This is why I'm actually not using an IDE, by the way, is because Unity has a compiler built into it, so I can just look down here and see what I broke. That's really all you need out of an IDE anyways. You don't need anything fancy. All the other options are just there to make your life easier. World, and then we want a spot controller. And go ahead and save. Always save before you do anything. That way, in case it crashes on you, you don't lose all your work. So, let's see if our stuff spawns. Spawning -5. Okay, we got 20 enemies spawn, which we really shouldn't have 20 enemies spawn. Someone tells me I'm going to get down the end of this and it's going to be... Yeah, it's going to be a cluster. I mean, it's working though. So let's go ahead and clear this wave and see if the next wave spawns. I'm really happy when I get this working though, and get multiplayer code on this, because then me and my buddies can play this instead of asking ourselves what game we're going to play today and then spend like 30-40 minutes going back and forth and not figuring out the game. Instead we be like, hey, let's go play this because we can make our own units and tanks, and if we want something in the game we can have it. It's working. I just gotta figure out why the spawning script is like -4. At least it resets, so we don't have to worry about that. So it is working properly, because we got 10 that wave. I mean, we got 20 the previous wave, so yeah, we got 10 this wave as well. We're on wave 2 though, so the wave counter's working. It's functioning. Because there's something wrong with like one of the logic scripts. And it's keeping track really well of like how many objects are left, and it doesn't feel like it's lagging, but I don't have an FPS counter. And I don't have... I think it looks like my graphics card's FPS counter turned off. Because you can turn on like... If you have like a NVIDIA graphics card, you can turn on like an FPS counter for like all windows on the screen. Which is really useful because you can see if your actual really basic GUI apps are lagging. You're like, why is this app not working? It's like, oh, because it hit 0 for FPS, which means it froze. We got 10 again, so I'm actually going to keep trying this until I see what happens when spawning gets above 1. And see what happens with that, because it looks like it's trying to count up. I just don't know what caused it to go negative in the first place. Okay, so we still got that. I mean, it's only set to go up like 2 every level, and it was supposed to initialize at what, 5. So we're at wave 5, so that should be 10. That means we should have 15 objects spawning at a time. Oh, we got 20 this time. We got double spawn off every object. You know what? I needed to add an exit to the loop, because it should have spawned 15 if I had an exit on the loop. But I call this a good enough start, at least, for 40 minutes worth of work of me talking to the microphone here. That's not bad, because probably wouldn't do this as a video. This probably would have been like 15 minutes of work, but I mean, it's still really good. This is actually, I mean, this is a somewhat enjoyable game by itself. I could see this being a cell phone game right here, and it's something you would download for free at the moment. But if I put a lot more work on this, this could be just this single level, just Horde Survival, maybe like a $5 game. And it's working at least. So I'm going to call that good for the video here, and I'll be back with more content, updates, and everything else.